What up, y'all? Naturegirl 30 here, and as you can see, I did get myself a new webcam as well as a new editor. So if this doesn't really turn out right, it is because I am new at this and I am green as well. I'm just terribly green with this, but I'm learning as time goes on, and hopefully this video will be a little bit better. But other than that, guys, this is my review of Clash of Champions 2017. Now, I'm going to actually go into these matches one by one this time and do my best not to go a little bit too long with it. But anyway, let's get started with Mojo versus Zack Ryder. What can I honestly say about it? I actually had a bad feed. I didn't really see the entire match, so I can't really make a comment on it. I just know that Mojo won. It sucks because Zack Ryder has always had the raw end of the deal. That's pretty much all I can say about that. So moving on from there to what I consider to be pretty much the match of the night, at least in my humble opinion. The tag team titles match, the fatal four-way between the Usos, the New Day, Rusev Day, and I call him Rusev Day. I'm going to call him that. And Benjamin and Gable. Honestly, y'all, that match was ridiculous. The fact that Chad Gable is that strong, that he is able to literally suplex nearly everybody in that entire match. He even did that with Big E. And of course he did that with A English, but he did that with Rusev. He did that with Big E. It was nuts. That guy is strong. I mean, it did slow down a little bit in the middle, but honestly, I really like that match. I love the Usos' momentum. I love the fire that they have. I love them as heels. And I guess they're faces now, but in my opinion, they're kind of edgy faces. But other than that, I am happy that they kept that title. So I got no beef with that. I consider that to be the match of the night. Now, I hate to say it, but the most confusing match with the least amount of build that had the really twisted ending that I kind of sort of cared about, but then kind of sort of didn't. It's the U.S. Championship match. There was absolutely no build to this at all, and there was no reason to have Dolph Ziggler in this match at all. But here's my humble opinion with this. I'm happy he won the title, but you gotta be, I mean, I'm a bit suspect about this. There was no build at all with this match, and why would Dolph Ziggler end up getting a title when he's been losing multiple times for a very long time? In my humble opinion, it's just sheer politics. We know the guy has been unhappy. We know he's been making somewhat like undercover, indirect threats that he may be leaving. And also the fact that he just doesn't like losing all the time. He said that pretty much on a whole bunch of podcasts. And I think on the last podcast he was on was the podcast he had with Edge and Christian. So honestly, man, in my opinion, it's just sheer politics. He ended up getting a U.S. title, but then it makes Baron Corbin's life just about worse for 2017. He lost the Money in the Bank championship. He lost the Money in the Bank title. He lost his the Money in the Bank briefcase, and then he ended up losing his title. Yeah, I have a twisted satisfaction to see Baron Corbin lose everything. I know there's something wrong with me, but yeah, y'all know how I feel about Baron Corbin. Maybe this might humble him a little bit. But yeah, he has squandered pretty much every single opportunity he's had. And I've already said my piece about Baron Corbin, and I'm not going to go into it anymore. Let's move on to another match that I think should have been a little bit more surprising, maybe be extended towards something new, but it just didn't. It just fell flat. Breezango versus the Bludgeon Brothers. It was a squash match. It was to make the Bludgeon Brothers look good. It's a shame it was Breezango at the expense of Breezango because I'm a huge fan of theirs, and I think they're way over because of the Fashion Files. And it's a shame that the Fashion Files are actually on WWE.com now instead of being on television every night, on SmackDown every night. We gotta see it on their website. Yay! The jacked up part about it is that this is at the expense of Breezango. We really don't see them wrestle that often, and they really did put up a fight. I was kind of hoping that they came out with a win against the Bludgeon Brothers and maybe extend a feud, maybe make something a bit interesting, but it was just a squash match, and that's a shame. I really wish it wasn't that way. But let's move on to the next match. The Women's Championship match. The Women's Championship Lumberjack match between Charlotte and Natalya. Oh boy! The timing was all over the place. I mean, honestly, nobody got their cue right. Everybody was all over the place. Lana pretended to fight when she really didn't. Like she pretended to, I think she pretended to kick Charlotte, but didn't hit anything but air. I mean, seriously, it was just all over the place. Everybody was looking for their cue. Nobody knew what to do. They just ran with it. Like the Lumberjills or the Lumberjacks should not have been there. It should have just been a one-on-one match, seriously. And then as soon as Charlotte won, yay, the queen. Okay, I'll stop. But as soon as Charlotte won, we end up getting like some sort of a heartfelt speech from Natalya. Well, more heartfelt, angry speech from Natalya, talking about how everybody turned their backs on her and pretty much kind of talking about how she might retire. It's like maybe a teaser of that she might retire. Let's be honest. If she retires, nobody really would be surprised and nobody really would care. It's pretty much time that Natalya will step down anyway because she's had her title shot. She's had her title win. She's had multiple title shots. She's been Divas champion and Women's champion. There's nothing left for her than to put other people over. That's it. She's had a really great run. She's a really great in-ring veteran. She has that respect behind the scenes. But she is as dull as dishwater when it comes to her being a champion. She just has a very bland, dull personality. There's nothing exciting about her. Not as champion, at least in my opinion, but I've already said it in my predictions. But other than that, if she does retire, I'm not surprised. But let's move on to pretty much the huge talking point of the night. And this actually should have been the main event, in my opinion, because this actually had the most play, the most push. They practically pushed this entire storyline every single night. It was so much of it was a lot of build in the storyline. So I don't really know why they didn't have this as the main event. But I am talking about Randy Orton and Shinsuke Nakamura versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn with so many names, with Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan as special guest referees. Whoa, was this just a huge mess. This was a car wreck, like a train wreck even. Like seriously, it was all over the place. The referees were just, they were everywhere. Daniel Bryan was extraordinarily passive to the point where it was annoying. Then you got Shane McMahon, who was, of course, very aggressive because he was acting like a heel. But in a strange way, Shane McMahon is being booked as the face in this, and Daniel Bryan is being booked as the heel, even though Daniel Bryan's acting more like a face than a heel, and vice versa with Shane. So I'm like, okay, why? But other than that, it was just flat out weird. And then it made no sense for Randy Orton to strike a pose for the crowd for like 5 minutes before he would go into his ridiculous snake bang, whatever you call it. But anyway, before he like literally did his little thing where he hits the ground, and actually before he did his RKO, he literally posed for 5 minutes. I mean, I didn't have the stopwatch on me, but he posed for a long freaking time instead of like actually doing his move and pinning the guy. And Shane was just like, come on. But anyway, the biggest talking point of the night is practically everyone on Twitter, everyone who watched it on Facebook is talking about a possible heel turn from Daniel Bryan. I'll be honest, Daniel Bryan didn't turn heel. He did what he had to do. Because, let's be real, Shane McMahon was acting more like a heel than Daniel Bryan was. And we've seen Daniel Bryan as a heel. He's an extraordinarily aggressive heel, overly aggressive. We remember that when he was actually a heel with AJ Lee. He's not a heel here. He had to do what he had to do. He had to literally protect Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, even though they don't deserve protecting at all. These guys deserve what they get. That's the strange, jacked up part about the storyline. Because number one, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens deserve nothing. They screwed SmackDown over during Survivor Series. Not to mention that they screwed Shane over in his match. The thing is that they screwed everybody over and they deserve what they get. I don't know why Daniel Bryan is fighting so hard to keep them. I understand kayfabe, they'll lose their jobs, but that's what they get for interfering in the first place. So my question is this. Why is Daniel Bryan literally putting his neck out for these two individuals that really don't give two craps about him? Seriously, they do not care about Daniel Bryan at all, storyline wise. And then for the entire feud, you have Shane McMahon, who is acting like a freaking heel, and he actually was a special guest referee before. I can't remember what pay-per-view it was, but it was like sometime in 1998. But other than that, he was acting like a heel then. But then Shane's acting like a heel now. I don't know. This entire feud, that whole match made my head hurt. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know who turned what. I didn't even know how to feel. I was like, huh? I was confused. But honestly, at the end of the day, that should have been the main event. It should have closed off with that. Seriously. And not this next match that I'm going to talk about here. AJ versus Jinder. I know I chuckled during my predictions about this. Mainly because it's Jinder freaking Mahal. But I will say this. AJ Styles sold the crap out of that match. He made Jinder Mahal look like a credible threat. Even though we knew he was not by any means. But he actually made Jinder Mahal look like a credible threat. And in my humble opinion, he carried the whole match all the way through, 100%. But I'm not going to say that Jinder didn't do his part. Jinder tried. Not only that, Jinder did his best. And you can tell, he acted like a dastardly heel. And not only that, he acted like he was very powerful, and he was. So I'm going to say this. I'm not going to say that Jinder didn't try, and I'm not going to say that he actually made the match worse. He actually was able to keep up with AJ somewhat. Not completely, but like maybe about here. About AJ being here, and then you have Jinder down here. He came close. Not completely there, but he came close. But other than that, this really wouldn't be anything I would cap off on. It was somewhat of a decent match, but it's not anything that should have been the main event, even though it's a title. Because it didn't really have a lot of build, but it had enough. But the most build of this entire pay-per-view, in my opinion, was definitely Orton and Nakamura versus Kevin and Sammy. That actual match had more build than anything else on the card. That, and also I have to say that Mojo versus Ryder, that has some build too. But not really, there wasn't really a lot of high stakes in some of these matches. And honestly, I didn't really care much. For some of these matches, I actually did have headphones on. So that shows us this is somewhat kind of average. But it's still a decent pay-per-view. But guys, that's my overall thoughts. I still believe this is a decent pay-per-view. And it's something, even though it's average, it wasn't horrible. But I do want to hear your thoughts about this. Leave in the comments below. Let me know how you feel. And I will see you later. Peace out.